Mrs. Greer, will you take attendance and see if we have a quorum?
Sure. Greg Luzero,
Present.
Nick Corrado,
Present.
Alan Zerka,
Present.
Dave DeWalis,
Present.
Lou Farrar,
Present.
Quorum.
Okay, all rise, say the pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight I'm going to ask everyone to remember the victims of the Las Vegas shootings also. Thank you. The board members, at our last meeting, we published the public hearing to be held at 6 o'clock. So we're going to go right into the enterprise fleet management presentation to the board for our first presentation. If it ends before 6 o'clock, we'll take a recess until 6, and then we'll begin the public hearing right then. Okay, introduce yourself to the board.
Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Jaworski. I'm with Enterprise Fleet Management, and I've been working with the town on putting together a customized fleet proposal for the last couple of months now, and I appreciate the time today. Let me just pass out this, and my goal today is to introduce Enterprise Fleet Management, share some success stories on the multiple different municipalities across New York. Vehicles in multiple departments, whether it be the social services to a highway department to their police vehicles. We have found a way to work within their budgets to provide them the amount of vehicles that they need. We have about 15 plus counties, as well as 30 plus non-for-profits, and we see some common industry trends when we meet with all of these clients is, year in and year out, you're tasked to accomplish more with a decreasing or stagnant budget. And when I sit down with our counties, cities, towns, the first thing that we see that gets left to the wayside is the vehicles. 'Cause everybody, it's easier to find a couple $100 to $1,000 to put a Band-Aid on a vehicle. It's not necessarily easy to find 30 to 40, or in the instance of these police vehicles, $45,000 to replace these when the repair is needed. So what our goal and what we've been working on is putting together a customized plan that looks at how we can phase in an enterprise approach by utilizing our buying power along with the towns, finding the optimal time to get out of a vehicle when it's still worth value, minimizing the actual cash outlay that our towns, our counties, our other partners have to spend on their vehicles day in and day out. Because when we know what's the optimal time to get out of a vehicle, that's where you don't have to worry about the larger operational expenses that come with, an engine change, brakes, tires, those kind of expensive repairs that may not necessarily be worth going into your vehicles. And that's what we've been working on, is putting a plan that's going to rotate these vehicles out and not be at an additional expense to what the town has been spending over the last 5 years or so, looking at where the fleet is at today. Another concern that we meet with a lot when we're meeting with a lot of our towns is safety of the vehicles. Yes, I'm replacing my vehicle maybe every 6 to 7 to 8 years, but is that the safest vehicle that's out there? I like to use the analogy of a cell phone. Most people today, you have your iPhone, your smartphone out there, and there's a new model that comes out each year with more technological features that thus the iPhone 6, which may only be 1 or 2 years old, is not nearly worth as much as the 7 or the new 8 that just came out. Cars nowadays are just like computers. New features are in. Every vehicle starting in 2018 now has a backup camera in it. How easy, how great does that make everybody's life safer? Because now you can see what's behind you, whereas 5 years from now, that was an absolute luxury feature in most vehicles. And when there's new safety features out for vehicles, we're going to be able to capitalize on the resale for that, and thus have a less of a liability for the different employees, staff members that are driving these vehicles. And then at the end of the day, this needs to make financial sense, and our goal is to work within the budgets of the individual departments, because what we find out when we're working with our government clients is it's an extremely decentralized process. One department could be doing one thing while multiple other departments are doing something different. By having one point of contact with myself and our team, we're locally based out of Rochester, and we cover everything from east of Syracuse, north of Watertown, down to the northern PA, and then from my hometown in Buffalo. We have over 125 local clients that we're managing their fleets today. Not only those 15 counties, but I did notice Barton and LaJudas they're one of our clients as well that I've been working with. Their CEO and CFO for a couple months now, putting together a plan. What everybody comes back to say is the amount of time that they get back in their day, because they're no longer worrying about the fleet. We're taking care of that for them, passing on the information, but at the end of the day, it's the town's final decision on how they want to handle their vehicles. Now, our key objectives of what we've been working on is, number one, lowering the overall age of the fleet. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're rotating these vehicles out proactively before any of those major repairs come into play, thus reducing those operating expenses. We had a conversation last week on the new fuel-efficient models that are out there and how many miles per gallon you're able to get in a brand new 2017 or 18 model versus, an older Crown Vic that's a 2007, 2008. And even some of the older Tauruses that you see out there. That's a substantial amount of savings when you start to factor in how many miles you're driving annually. And then at the end of the day, providing the visibility to knowing exactly how much your vehicles are going to cost you every single year by budgeting appropriately and not reactive, where a vehicle goes down, I need to come up with these funds to get this vehicle replaced. And I'm going to go into the numbers in a little bit more detail of exactly how that plan plays out. But those are some of the key objectives that when I sit down with counties, when I sit down with towns, that's what they need out of a program with us, because they're not getting the funding, or the funds are not always going to be there year in and year out. So that's where a flexibility of a program like Enterprise Fleet Management can bring to the table. And again, what we want to take a look at is, capitalizing on the buying power of our government clients. If you and I were to go out to the store and acquire, or go out to a dealer and acquire a vehicle, we're looking at paying, consumer retail pricing. Governments are able to capitalize on a government incentive that is a huge substantial savings. Now, what we typically see before we meet with our clients is you're capitalizing on that incentive, but you're running these vehicles to the ground. So instead of keeping cash within a depreciating asset, maximize on that buying power, utilize us as a funding mechanism to pay for a vehicle as you utilize it, get out of the vehicle at the right time, keeping cash within the town, but you're still able to acquire more vehicles on a yearly basis to help out. And we're going to take a look at a specific example of comparing on average what the town has been spending on a police cruiser versus what a plan would look like with Enterprise, implementing all vehicles on a pay for the vehicle as you utilize it plan. And we're able to provide turnkey solutions. So I personally handle vehicles from small sedan all the way up to an F550 vehicle, with the police utility interceptor falling in between that at the SUV level. Now, what's specific to the police vehicles that we're looking at today is they are very expensive. When they're fully upfitted, we're talking about a $45,000 vehicle. What my plan is taking a look at is implementing that same police cruiser, paying for it as you utilize it through our Enterprise, what's called an open-ended equity lease, which is much different than your dealership lease, which I'll touch on that in a moment. But when you pay for the vehicle as you utilize it, you're able to acquire more vehicles for that same amount of capital that you would be spending. But at the end of the day, you're reducing that total cost of ownership when we're talking about fuel, maintenance, and those other expenses that begin to add up when you're looking at the vehicle as a whole and not just the sticker price at the front. So back to the open-ended equity lease portion. Everybody in here, I'm sure, is familiar with what's called a dealership or a close-ended lease, where you're locked into your 36 months, 12.5 annually. If you go anywhere over, you're paying 25 cents per mile. When you return the vehicle, dings, dents, wear and tear, tires, you're responsible for all those extra additional fees. Well, Enterprise that's not our solution. That's not how we help out our clients. What we utilize is what's called an open-ended equity lease or a fair market residual finance. What I mean by that is we take that same, and I'll use an example of a $25,000 vehicle, whereas we're going to take a look at, based off of usage and the type of vehicle that it is, what's the optimal time to get out of this vehicle. For example, and for our exercise that we're going to be looking at for the numbers, we're going to say 48 months at about, in between 80 and 100,000 miles. Based off of how many miles the town anticipates driving, we're going to finance that vehicle or lease it down to a conservative balance. We'll say, for example, $5,000. Well, at 48 months, when we find out, that's the optimal time to get out of the vehicle based off of the industry conditions in the resale market, as well as the usage of what the vehicle is going for, we anticipate selling that vehicle in fair condition for $11,000 to $12,000. Well, that $5,000 to $6,000 delta based off of the principal balance is then turned back to the town to utilize to the next round of vehicles, lowering the next payment essentially as a down payment. So in turn, you're going to be able to reduce your lease costs. And that's the long-term sustainable plan that we've been able to put in place for our multiple counties, as well as our private clients that are spending money on a vehicle, getting out of it at the right time, utilizing the extra equity, the down payment to lower their payment, and then you'll see through the analysis on the next page of how that long-term sustainable plan plays out. Now, before I go on any farther and we look at the actual numbers, I just want to make sure that everybody has any questions on the open-ended equity lease. I know a lot of times it's the first time people are hearing of this.
when you do a lease for a police vehicle, you include in that lease price the emergency equipment and the installation of computers and radios?
Correct.
Or that's a separate charge?
No, and that's a great question. So when we were putting together this analysis, I asked Chief to give me all the information. Give me a vehicle, because we're going to provide the town a turnkey vehicle with all that equipment included. Now, this analysis includes how Enterprise structures their leases is any additional equipment, aftermarket equipment that exceeds $10,000. We do require 50% of that, just the equipment down, because the equipment's going to depreciate greater than the vehicle itself. So we want to make sure we're putting the town in a positive position within the lease sooner. And you can see that on the analysis where you'll see a column that says AME down payment of the 6202. That's factoring in the additional equipment for that vehicle to be, that's half of what the aftermarket equipment costs to upfit these police utility cruisers.
What happens when they turn like one over and you try to sell them is used police cars where we have to take the equipment out and take all the markings off, or you take it back or whatever with the equipment, or that's worked out to see how much it's worth at the end, or?
It's your choice. With our clients, that's why the lease, you're paying for the vehicle that as you utilize it. The only thing that may affect at the end is going to be the resale of the vehicle. But knowing from the police equipment, you really do, if what we're looking at is being able to essentially retain some of that equipment as we cycle through some of these vehicles. Granted, the Ford doesn't go out and change the overall dynamics of the model vehicle, but that's something that we take a look at on a quarterly basis with all of our clients is, where are you at within the lease? What can we sell this vehicle for? Thus, our goal is to always find an opportunity to save money within the town. And I'll share an example. I know it's not specific to the actual police vehicles, but with Cortland County, who we've been working with for a little bit over 3 years now, we structured all of their leases to be 60-month leases because they drive such low miles. While in our third year of looking at their vehicles, we were able to sell some of their pickup trucks for a greater amount than what was the principal balance, being able to write them a check for a couple $1,000s that they were able to then turn around, put down on a new vehicle, and have a lower lease payment. So that's how we're able to be creative in our conversations with the police vehicles. These are heavily equipped vehicles. Making sure that they are on the road and downtime is limited is extremely important to the town, to make sure that these vehicles are up and running as much as possible. And that's where we're able to be creative and strategic with our planning to make sure that we're limiting any downtime for those vehicles. But for the other departments that are utilizing pickup trucks, cargo vans, SUVs, this plan works for those as well, because we're able to take a look at those on an individual vehicle basis rather than putting together one cookie cutter approach and saying this is what we have to stick to, what you would be limited to a close-end or a dealership lease in that scenario. And I hope that answers.
Just one other question
Yeah.
we have, obviously, we would insure those vehicles as police vehicles are a high likelihood of getting damaged or getting in accidents. And if you had a situation or a client where, what happens to the estimated wholesale value? Would you automatically discount that based if a vehicle is in an accident?
So to answer that question, as far as how you're going to insure these vehicles, the exact same way that you currently are doing today. We don't require any additional restrictions, changes. I work with many organizations that are self-insured for physical damage as well as liability. I work with them on the other side that have an insurance policy that covers physical damage. The beauty of our lease is at the end of the term, we're going to assess this vehicle. We're going to see what the vehicle looks like, and if there is a recommendation to say, hey, we recommend that you get this replaced because it's only going to increase your resale value versus not getting that repair done and having an impact of that, that's something that, our expertise, because in the upstate central New York area alone, we have 17 individuals, and that's their sole job is to sell our clients' vehicles. They're going to a Simmons Rockwell, a Van Bortle, all the local dealers around, and we're selling our clients' vehicles, we're selling our rental vehicles. And we're always trying to maximize the return that we can pass back to our clients. Because at the end of the day, that's how we're going to show long-term savings, is writing you a check for $5,000 versus $2,500 to lower your lease payment.
Okay, well, thanks for answering my question.
Absolutely. Any other questions before, I want to walk through the numbers, or if anybody has had a chance to review this and knows some specific questions that they might want to address my way. All right, we'll walk right through it then. So what we're looking at here is going to be, an analysis of, on average, what 2 police vehicles are looking like, what town it has spent on the police cruisers over the past, which equates to about $85,000. So that's what we're building our average budget to look like. On the green side, you're going to see what we're looking at replacing for 2018 is going to be one of those marked Interceptor SUVs, and then one unmarked Ford Fusion. Monthly lease payment, so that would be the payment to Enterprise from the town on a monthly basis of, the $852 and the $337 per month to being $1,189. The AME down payment column that you see there, that is what we're looking at as far as the aftermarket, the radios, the cages, outfitting this vehicle to be a turnkey solution, and requiring 50% of that down. The reduced book value at term, so that's what we're leasing or financing this vehicle down to over 48 months, anticipating, about 25,000 annual miles, so getting out of the vehicle at the right time. Estimated equity, that's what we anticipate selling this vehicle for at a fair condition. So about $11,000 for the Ford Fusion, $8,000 for the utility Interceptor. And we anticipate this vehicle to be completely stripped. How we derive our resale values for the utility Interceptors is taking a look at what the base model Ford Explorer is looking like and taking $4,000 off that. And then that will build you to an effective lease cost. So when we're looking at replacing those first round of vehicles that would be ordered through Enterprise after 48 months, what's my new payment going to look like when I'm able to apply the equity or the additional as a down payment to my vehicle in 5, 6, 7, 8 years? And that's what the bottom you'll see is putting together a long-term plan. But when we look at what the first year cost is going to look like, and total annual lease cost for one marked SUV and one unmarked Fusion is going to be $20,474. Again, that's an immediate cash flow savings of close to $65,000 based off of what the anticipated budgeted amount would be for 2 marked SUVs. And that's exactly what we're able to do for our clients, is take a look at what your capital budget is, what your vehicle needs are, and align those to stay under that plan to keep cash within for other additional projects. And from our conversations, this is one area where we're going to be able to help the police department upkeep their vehicles on a proactive, regular basis, but never go above that average budget, capital budget that has been spent over the last couple of years on average. And as we walk down the line, you'll see 2018, that $20,000 budget. And what you'll see is, we're replacing 2 vehicles. So what we anticipate selling those vehicles for an estimated about $4,000 per vehicle. When you apply that again towards what your lease cost would be, that's $72,000 worth of savings in that first year through our program. As we work down, we're implementing an additional 2 more marked cars in 2019. Your new fleet budget, $47,132, still $48,000 worth of savings. As we move down through, we're fully invested with all of our police vehicles through Enterprise Fleet Management, you're still looking at an annual savings of $11,957 in that first year fully replacing, which brings a total 8-year plan of one full cycle of replacing through all of our vehicles to be saving the town over $226,000, conservatively speaking. And from our conversations, there are more additional areas where there is savings. For example, maintenance. We're going to be getting out of these vehicles before we have to worry about replacing engines or looking at transmissions or putting on that second additional set of brakes and tires for the most part, which is going to be savings there that's not factored into this analysis. Fuel savings alone, I ran an analysis versus different year models that are currently within the fleet versus what it would look like with all of these vehicles, and that's another $15,000 of savings within the first 4 years of partnership. These are all the different savings and tools that Enterprise, as a fleet management company, is going to be able to provide visibility to the town, because we're not just leasing cars, we're a consultant. We're the same person that you would go to your financial advisor to see what the market is looking like for your investments. We're going to be sitting down with the town on a quarterly basis and looking at the fleet as a whole and finding areas of opportunity where there's going to be potential savings, as well as, if we have to be flexible and change plans year in and year out, we alter those quite frequently with almost all of our clients that we sit down with. But that's again what's going to separate us from somebody that's just going to be able to lease the town a vehicle, and then again you're left to handle this whole process by yourself. Before I kind of conclude, I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the numbers in front of them. If they have any questions, concerns, comments, I'd love to field those questions.
Paul, Chief, have anything to add?
No, Rob did a great job.
Anyone in the audience have, Luke?
I see you have Seneca County down, you have Ontario County. How are they with, Seneca County? I know it's 17 months you said they've been with it. What's the feedback? And
I've heard nothing but great. We actually met with John and Crystal over at the county about less than a month ago, and they initially started. So what we did when I sat down with them, John was in office for about 8 months. And he told me, he sat down, Rob, I look out my office every single day and I see vehicles out there that aren't getting used, no rhyme or reason to why certain departments are using certain vehicles. So we sat down, I worked with him for about 3 to 4 months on putting together a customized plan to oversee all of the departments. And what we were able to do is what he started the partnership with was 32 out of his 94 vehicles in fleet, not counting the police vehicles at that time. Through the partnership, through the last couple of years, we've included six police cruisers last year. We're looking at additional vehicles this year. He's looking at implementing another about 21 vehicles that I believe was just brought up to the board, or will be brought up to the board in the next coming weeks or so. So I'm confident sitting up here that if anybody were to reach out to John Shepard, the county manager, and ask about his partnership with Enterprise, he would have nothing but great things to say about myself and Dana Barnes, who's the account manager, and her team that has overseen that since our initial plans that we put in place.
so it started out with initially just the squad cars, the sheriff's department?
No,
Then
so-
it went to all the vehicles?
So with Seneca County, we took a look at the fleet as a whole. So he gave me their entire fleet list broken down by department. And what I did then is put together a customized plan, exactly what I did for the chief and lieutenant. They were the ones that gave me their exact vehicles and what their budgets look like. And then we worked together to put together that customized plan. And then I put a long-term solution in. So, as you can see, this is one department. Over 8 years, we're looking at, over $225,000 worth of savings. So there is a great other opportunity with other divisions within the town as well.
So the county is on board with it?
Yes.
We're already saving by...
Correct. And,
Does that, if we as a town signed on to that, does that affect us as far as the county? As far as a better price, or is it the same price? I mean, because you've got all the county vehicles and now you have all the town vehicles, is that...
It's a great point. So how we started the partnership with Seneca County was through an RFP process. We were awarded their RFP through best value and price with other competition that was out there. The pricing structure that we've used is on a piggybackable RFP that Ontario County has used, that Lewis County has used, and I recently started a partnership with Genesee County 2 weeks ago that they utilized to fulfill their due diligence process. So I'm confident, not only is that going to be the best pricing out there for the town and county, but it's going to put you in the best financial position to be able to be flexible with the leases as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm just curious about what the purchase price for those same vehicles would be, what the exact purchase price would be versus a 4-year lease for $80,000.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I ballpark figures. You know, the police cruiser itself is a $44,000 to $45,000 fully upfit. Ford Fusion is going to range in between $19,000 to $21,000 through
So
that.
that's about $65,000.
Mm-hmm.
Leasing for $80,000 is a better deal.
Well, that's when we're looking at the entire fleet as a whole, factoring in. But on average, you know, through the last couple of years, for 2 police cruisers, it's $85,000. What we wanted to take a look at is a phase-in approach, because the immediate needs are 1 marked, 1 unmarked. In past years, the immediate need was 2 unmarked, so that's where we get the $85,000 as a budget from.
I guess I still don't understand the benefit to the town if you're spending $80,000 versus 60-some thousand, and then you sell those same cars in 2 years, you could still get the value of the cars back and still pay less money.
Well, the town would be leasing 10 vehicles versus just paying for 2.
Right, so that's even more money at $800 and some dollars a month for the police cruiser, for the SUV. So it's times however many vehicles, that much more money, in my mind. Now, my math skills aren't the best, but their simple math skills are pretty good. And to me, it sounds like a lot more money to lease the vehicles, which is usually, I mean, I've never leased a vehicle, but it looks like the payments are about half to 3/4 of purchasing a vehicle. And these are more.
I guess I'm not really quite following you, because, you know, that what from your point, you'd be expecting the town to be paying cash for these vehicles year in and year out, whereas when you're paying for it as you utilize it, that's what the example is looking at. You know, $20,000 for 2 vehicles in 1 year, versus if you were to pay cash for those same 2 vehicles, we're looking at $85,000. So when we're working
How
in
is
the,
it 85 for the 2 vehicles if one is 45 and the other's around 21?
that's looking at as far as what 2 marked would be looking like, and I don't know if
But that's in 18, and that's a rare year because we only need 1 unmarked. So after 18, we look at 19, 20, all throughout the rest of the years, it's 2 marked. I think if Rob gives you the graph and how it's broken down, so the $85,000 is what we would budget typically. Not necessarily in 18 though. I get what you're saying there, where a marked and an unmarked doesn't equal up to 85,000, right? So, but in 19, 20, 21, 22, all those years throughout, then you are talking $85,000. So, Rob, I think maybe the 18 for the 85,000 might not be an accurate number.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of the 20 and 65,000.
yeah.
I guess
But-
I don't understand, Chief, why in the future years it would be $85,000.
Because then you're talking 2 marked.
But you're paying for each one separately, so each one costs more than it would cost to buy, no matter what way you look at it. The vehicles, the purchase price over 4 years is less than the lease price over 4 years.
Purchase price is more than the lease price.
How is that though? If you add 45 and 21 is 65.
Because in like year 2019, you have budgeted for, let's say, so we're taking out the 18 for the unmarked. In 19, we're budgeting $85,000 for 2 marked vehicles, where we can lease them for $47,000. So normally, we would be budgeting $85,000 for 2 marked, where instead we're only going to budget $47,000 in 19. And in 2020, if we keep moving down the line, typically budgeted $85,000 for, again, 2 marked, okay? Where we'd be budgeting $67,000. So that's the cost difference between those. So every year we would be buying a marked vehicle. We would be, you know, between $40,000 and $45,000, depending on what equipment we can take out of one car and put into another. You know, like Rob said, as long as Ford doesn't do any crazy body changes, we have been fortunate enough to take cages and things like that out of one vehicle and put them into another. If they do a crazy body change, then we have to outfit it completely from scratch. So Rob is taking that and conservatively put that in as outfitting everyone from scratch, even though we're not gonna be doing that, hopefully. At some point, Ford will change their lifestyle, we know that. But- So the 85,000 that you're thinking of, minus next year, let's take that one out, because it is a little confusing, is what it would be for 2 marked vehicles outfitted each year, if we were to buy them.
So the price for 2 marked vehicles will stay the same as the marked SUV and the Ford Fusion each year? Is that what you're saying?
No, the Ford Fusion is only 1 year, we'll buy that for 1 year. And we won't have to, that's an unmarked investigator's vehicle, so we won't have to replace that.
So you're talking about getting 2 $45,000 vehicles every year for 80-some thousand. I'm confused, because the numbers don't add up in my head.
So I'll share with you the presentation, and we're not going to be making a budgetary decision tonight. We will be having budget workshops over the next month and a half. I believe the budget has to be approved by November 21st. Is that November 20th? So at the budget workshop for the police department, we'll be announcing that tonight. We're going to set up budget workshop meetings, and we're going to be discussing this over the month. So I'll share with you the figures we have here, and you'll look at them. If you have any other questions, send them on to me, and we'll be, if we have time, we'll be allowing some public comment at the budget workshops. Okay, although those are for the department heads to discuss the budget.
I must be missing something, that's all I can say, because the purchase price is $20,000 less.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. If addressing that is, even if we looked at, okay, the very first year, if we're gonna do apples to apples, so we'll say $65,000 to acquire that, it's still only going to cost the town $20,000 to lease that.
Per year.
Well, for one unmarked, one marked. So the additional savings, instead of it being, 72, we'll take 20,000 out of that, so it's still going to be $52,000 savings in the first year. Moving forward, each of these plans implements 2 of those $45,000 vehicles, so an $85,000 budget moving forward. So to your point exactly, yes, for 2018 it's not, but I wanted to be consistent throughout because that has been what the town has budgeted. And to the chief's point, this is an anomaly of a year where we're only looking at 1 marked, 1 unmarked. And I do have copies of this here. I don't have enough, so I can always, to Greg's point, to leave some stuff behind. And I also brought a 1-page case study from Erie to Boces, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus County. That's the RFP that majority of all of our municipality clients have piggybacked off of. And they've been a partner with us for about 3 years. And they've seen the savings from their fleet of 70 vehicles. We've been able to reduce their fleet cost by 30% year in and year out. And again, they would be more than happy to be able to reach out to address anybody that has some concerns, because it is a completely new way of looking at the vehicles. And I understand that every time I come up and do a presentation, it's a complete new philosophy, because many of the towns, cities, and counties that I meet with have been buying and holding for the last 25, 30 years. I see the Chevy Impala that's been on the New York State contract for probably older than I'm even alive. I'll be honest admitting that. And what we've been able to see is year in and year out, the manufacturers are changing. We're adopting as a company, and we just pass that information along to our clients. At the end of the day, if next year chief in the budget is only looking at 1 vehicle, well, that's still going to be a fraction of what he would have had to pay if he had to pay cash for that. So that's the philosophy of paying for this vehicle as you're utilizing it, finding the right time to get out of it, so the chief doesn't have to worry about spending $85,000 for 2 when he can do a fraction of it. And yes, we understand, when we are 10 vehicles in with Enterprise, your lease payment is going to still remain under that $85,000 marker when we're factoring in, helping him dispose of his vehicles within the fleet today. So great question. I completely get where you're coming from. It's a question whenever I'm in front, that's the first thing that pretty much everybody asks of, well, what if we were to just purchase these vehicles, or what would that purchase price be?
Okay, what Blair had next question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What do you provide in the way of analytics? Do you have access to a database where someone would log in and look at how their fleet is doing in terms of maintenance and what expenses are being charged against it, what sort of mileage it's getting, and so on?
Yes, absolutely. So that's where the whole total transportation solution comes into play. So we have a cloud-based website that we just relaunched about 12 to 16 months ago. And to that point exactly, individual department heads and the whole town in general, whoever would have access to it would be able to log in and see what each individual vehicle would be costing. And from a maintenance solution, from our conversations, the town would, from the police vehicles, continue to maintain those vehicles within the local relationships that they have.
Do you issue credit cards to be used for gasoline and other services?
So we have a partner with Right Express who is on the New York State contract that we utilize. Any information from any time a town vehicle fills up, that feeds right to our website. And then we have a maintenance card where, you can go to your local shop. Enterprise provides that maintenance oversight. Again, those programs are a la carte. It's not something you have to utilize with us. Seneca County, they do utilize our maintenance program.
And they provide for replacement of lost or stolen cars?
Yeah, it's as simple as a phone call to us, and we, can facilitate that process for you. Or I believe right now you can log into the website and they can overnight one to your.
My last question: do you provide GPS services such as geofencing?
Yes, we do. That's something with Genesee County that we're implementing with their program as well, and it's something that we have seen, to the turn of from a liability standpoint to an efficiency standpoint of tracking to make sure where those vehicles are. Yes, that is one of our programs that we do offer.
And do you have alerts for things like excessive speed?
I have one in my vehicle where I drive around everywhere. Seatbelt, I'll get a notification, and it's in vehicle alert, so I get a beep. If I'm going over, and Chief, plug your ears, if I'm going 10 miles or whatnot over the speed limit for more than 10 seconds, I get a notification that in-car that it'll beep, as well as my superior could get a notification via phone or email. Sharp turns, idling is another area that there are reports and a dashboard that we can provide oversight to individual department heads. Whatever information you're looking for, it speaks volumes, and it's a plug-and-play device as well, so it's nothing that needs to get hardwired, so it's easily transferable to vehicle as well. Great question.
Yeah, the RFP that they would be looking at to maybe back onto, what's your competition out there for going after that RFP? I mean, are you guys the only ones that would actually bid on it?
From the local standpoint, yes. Our niche of vehicles is anywhere from 15 to 300.
When you say local standpoint, what if they put it out all, upstate New York?
I highly doubt any of our competition out there will come in, just because they focus on fleets of 500 to 1,000 vehicles, where Enterprise, we have that local footprint of having branches within, the local environment to.
So who's your competition at other levels? Other rental agencies like that we're all familiar with, or what?
I don't know if you ever heard of the company Element. Their GE was one of theirs, but quite frankly, in this standpoint, there's really nothing out there. In ARI, DeCarolus, some of the other leasing companies, but they don't offer what we do at this level for what our competition. We've gone against these in our different RFPs, and we've won against them every single time.
You're the same company as Enterprise Rental, car rental, right?
So we're a sister company.
Oh.
So yes, so we're the same Taylor family that started Enterprise Rent-A-Car from 6 Cadillacs at the basement of a dealership. We were actually a leasing company first, and then he saw an advantage of looking at the rental world. People needed short-term rentals. The vehicle was down. Boom, $20 billion company. We're the sister company that started that whole family-owned organization.
Yes.
Just go back to price again. So when we fully made the transition to a leased fleet, in today's prices, how much would it cost to support that lease?
We would be looking at $88,043, not factoring in $88,043, not factoring in any of the resale disposal of a 4-year-old vehicle, which we anticipate being about $8,000 per, or any of the maintenance savings by rotating the fleet every 4 years.
Whereas by owning a fleet, you'd be buying 2 vehicles a year,
Yes.
and we'd be selling them off.
Well,
So
currently,
like
we
surplus.
utilize them until they're just about, they die shocked. That's why I was at a board meeting last month asking for the motor. This is getting out of the vehicle, as Rob said, 80 to 100,000, which I've been actually trying to work with the board to try to accomplish. It's just that they're expensive vehicles, so this would be getting a better vehicle with less maintenance costs.
For
Consistent.
more or less comparable money.
Yes.
So that's where the benefit lies.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
I understand the residuals and the way you work the numbers, so what would you anticipate your maintenance expense over the life of a 4-year vehicle versus buying it and holding until it's dead?
Yeah, great question. I actually ran an analysis with them, and on average, what we see, what the town has been spending from buying and holding a vehicle is about $140 per month. Enterprise Solution is looking at in between 95 to 105. And again, those are conservative numbers, factoring in all the maintenance, brakes, tires. So from that apples to apples comparison, there is, the savings opportunity there. Great question.
Any more questions? Okay, we're going to recess until 6 o'clock for a public hearing. We're in recess. Okay, we are back in session. And I want to open up the public hearing for proposed local law number 3 of 2017. Supersede town law and providing for eligibility of town officers. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this? Before we speak, David, can you give a synopsis of this law?
Sure. The town law provides that generally for a person to be an officer of the town, there is somewhat of a residency issue. In other words, is the officer here? Under the public officers law, an attorney who represents the town is in fact an officer of the town. So that brings up the option of, do you want to have somebody who has a residency issue, is physically here, or do you want to be able to widen the search for people who do municipal law but yet don't have any of the conflicts, such as the firm that they're with or they themselves may represent another jurisdiction, another township, or another village. They may represent the county or another county, and sometimes that provides a problem. It gives rise to a problem of a conflict. There are not a lot of attorneys who engage in municipal law. So in order to do this, the state recognizes that the towns, the various villages, towns, cities may have a problem fulfilling, getting who they want and the experience level that they want if they limit the search just to within the people who are in the jurisdiction. So it's very common for municipalities to use the municipal home rule law to supersede that section. In this case, it's section 23 of the town law. Basically provides that you can waive that issue for the attorney's position, and the municipal home rule law allows you to adopt a local law saying that you're doing that. Although in this case it affects me, it would affect any subsequent attorney that you wanted to hire. Many times, a lot of the issues faced by towns, whether they be employment issues or environmental issues or any host of specialized areas, the town is represented by outside counsel anyway. But in this particular instance, you are able to hire a local attorney
and you can waive this provision of the law. And the way you do it is by giving notice, putting it in the paper, holding a public hearing, and after due review of it, adopting a local law that allows a person to be hired, and you're not hamstrung by just saying, okay, do we have 10 or 15 or 5 attorneys within the confines of the town of Seneca Falls who do municipal law, have experience in municipal law, and are able to take the job, and is it somebody that the board wishes to hire? So it's an expediency type of thing. It's done quite often. If one goes to the section of the town law, you'll find the local laws listed for many, many of the towns and villages and cities in the state where they have given themselves the option to hunt for a person from a larger pool. That's really what this law does. That's the design of it.
Okay, is there anyone who would like to make a public comment on proposed local law 3 of 2017? Would you approach the microphone, please? Yeah.
My name is Doug Avery, Seneca Falls resident. I understand the argument that Mr. Foster just made and articulated it very nicely. My concern is one of appearance. The appearance of this, the timing, doing this now, is that Pat Morrell issued some opinions late last year that that you found disagreeable, whether it's you, Greg, or you and Seneca Meadows, but either way. That it appears that Seneca Meadows, and perhaps you, wanted to replace Pat Morrell. It appears now you're trying to make that work somehow. That's really it.
Okay. The reasons for Mr. Morrell's departure is a personnel issue and is privileged and confidential. Now, if Mr. Morrell wants to break that privilege and confidentiality, he can. But this board is bound by that by law, privilege and confidentiality. And your synopsis is totally wrong.
Well, I'm not drawing a conclusion. I'm just simply saying, because you disagreed, he disagreed. He said not to issue the town's operating permit. And so it appears that you replaced it and then issued that permit. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'm Robert L. McGill Jr. from Waterloo, New York. I've watched this man for issue longer than most people here in this room, more familiar with it. And I would like to remind you that it's Mr. Avery and his crew that demanded that Morrell resign in the first place. I can distinctly remember...
Speak to the issue, please.
Yes.
People in the audience.
At times, because of the issue at hand, being the landfill, it is very difficult to recruit personnel. A town attorney being one. In Waterloo, we have been subjected to all kinds of harassment, vandalism, threats. Death threats have been going on in Waterloo for about 6 years. Broken windows. I had a spoiled turkey dumped off in my yard. Town councilman had mattresses dumped in his yard. People in Waterloo have been harassed for about 9 years. And if you recall, in '09, the county board was going to throw the concerned citizens out of their board meeting and accuse them of harassment. They did not want the concerned citizens coming back to their meetings and repeating the same stuff and making the accusations that they make. Anyone who is on the board has been subjected to abuse. I know that for a fact. The town
issue
attorney...
is the local law.
Pardon me?
The
Yes.
issue is the local law.
I
So
understand,
speak to that, please.
but I am giving you justification. You are not necessarily going to find somebody who lives here locally that's willing to put up with this kind of harassment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I understand that the attorney has explained the process and reasons why we can do this. But what we haven't heard is anything about the reason that we have the new attorney. Apart from without getting into privileged information or what happened with Mr. Morel, at the same time, we learned that he was forced to resign. We were told, here's the new person. We didn't know if there was a process where there was a review of people who would have liked the position, of attorneys in our own town who could have filled the position. In other words, you're asking us to change the law without giving the reasons why this particular attorney, and he mentions that there may be expertise that he has that you wanted. And for me, this goes to the heart of the problems we're having in this town because so much happens that's not transparent. We are told Mr. Morel resigned. He says he was forced to resign. And we were told, here's the new person. Now we're told we had to have a public hearing in order to do this. So come on, folks, let's do it. But why? What's happening here? What litigation is our new attorney prepared with his skills and his years of experience to offer us that some attorney in town could offer us? And I think about the last public hearing I spoke at, and I came ready for the public hearing about the eminent domain for the sculpture trail and was absolutely amazed when the first 45 minutes of the public hearing was hearing from the engineer about why they wanted to do it. And so I think this is what's missing here. He gave an account of all the study and the reasons, and here were the different options, and this is why we want to do it this way. We've heard nothing. And
We're speaking about this local law, not...
yes, okay, I'm saying that it's a problem. And I have a copy of the Waste Management Committee's meeting minutes from August where you, Supervisor Lazaro, are very clear about your reasons for wanting a host agreement. You say because you'd rather
We're talking
negotiate than litigate. Okay, I'm
You're
raising the question
You're
of
out of order.
litigation.
You're out of order, Mrs.
I'm raising the question of litigation. We have a lawyer we're employing because we want to be ready for litigation. And you explained that you'd rather negotiate than litigate. And we get in these minutes a very detailed explanation to the Waste Management Committee on your thinking, which is not what we're getting now. I'm drawing the contrast. We don't know why we're doing this. I don't know anything about this lawyer or what he brings to it, his experience. I don't know if you've had a process where you raised other names. I don't know who advised you that this is the man you want. I don't know what you want. And yet you're asking us to act. And I just don't think it's fair to the public. It's one more chance, experience of not knowing what's happening, and yet we're asked to confirm it.
Any more public comments? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Go on to petitioners. Robert McGill, Air Quality Management. Yeah. Remember, as a petitioner, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Well, the concerned citizens did an air quality test and they were really quiet with the results. We had a new group that wanted an air quality sampling, and I haven't heard anything from them. So I took it upon myself to do a little investigating. I bought a CO2 monitor. CO2 is 40 to 60% of landfill gas. I bought a methane gas monitor. 45 to 60% of landfill gas is methane. The nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide are at such low levels I didn't think I'd be able to find anything, and I'm correct. A half a part per million is way too low. Most of these sensors are 1 part per million and up. I have gone around, you heard this thing going off. I came in this room a couple of weeks ago, tested it, 600 parts per million. When everybody was talking, they got up to 1,200 parts per million. Just the number of people in the room doubled the amount of CO2 in this enclosed space. And you do have a ventilation system, I do believe. I also wanted to let people realize that not all landfill gas is harmful. Everybody bitches because there's too much air in a bag of Doritos or potato chips. Well, it's nitrogen gas. A CO2 or a landfill gas. Hydrogen sulfide is also a food preservative. It's used for medications. It's also used for a bunch of new medical techniques for heart disease, Parkinson's. They're starting a whole bunch of different therapy with hydrogen sulfide. Sulfur dioxide, most landfill employees wear one of these. When it gets to 5 parts, 10 parts per million, 15 parts per million, the alarm goes off. It's, in most cases, an OSHA regulation. The town has them. They use them in their sewage treatment plant. They're hardwired into most buildings. They wear them in the manhole anytime they work on sewers. So a lot of this gas is in such small amounts that it's perfectly harmless. A lot of the gas is actually beneficial. Hydrogen sulfide treatments and new medical techniques I mentioned. Nitric oxide is used in incubators for premature babies. Helps them breathe when their lungs are not fully mature. A lot of this gas is used every day. You're subjected to it. The same gas, believe it or not, in the hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide is also in an onion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to get out of here before my methane meter goes off because I can smell sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, so somebody already.
Perhaps he would be a good guest at your committee. Different point of view, Doug.
We'll put them in the entertainment portions.
The next petitioner is Aunt Anway Law, and she's going to speak about It's a Wonderful Life. And as a petitioner, you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay.
Okay. So I'm here tonight representing the Seneca Falls It's a Wonderful Life Museum. And this year we are responsible for coordinating the participation of the actors and other people associated with the film in the festival, and this includes covering their expenses. And you know, I just have to say after all this, and I hope it doesn't break into my time, that, you know, we often wonder, Henry and I, why are we involved with It's a Wonderful Life? Because we have a human rights organization too. And I often tell visitors, they go, how many times have you seen this movie? Well, I didn't grow up with this. But I see the effect it has on people, and that we all deal with a lot of difficult issues in the world and in our towns and in this country. And sometimes we need an It's a Wonderful Life Day, where we know the ending and we can find the hope. And that's why we do this, and that's why this festival and this museum is so important, not just to our town, but to people around this country. Last year, the presence of the 3 Bailey kids resulted in 400 million media impressions. that brought people then to Seneca Falls this year. We've seen a dramatic increase in visitation to the museum and to the town. Oprah Winfrey mentioned Seneca Falls in her introduction on a piece about Carolyn Grimes. Al Roker came for the Today Show. We kind of wondered, what can we do this year? And I've put together a packet for you. We've been working, the It's a Wonderful Life Museum has been working all year with Carolyn Grimes and others from the film to think about what we could do this year. And we're happy to say that within the last 3 weeks, Carol Coombs, who played Janie Bailey, has decided to come back. She'll be 82. And so for the first time in 20 years, 4 actors from this film will be appearing together. And they are only appearing one place in this country, and that is in Seneca Falls. So we'll have Carolyn Grimes, Zuzu, Carol Coombs, Janie, Jimmy Hawkins, Tommy, and Jeanette Roos, who played young Violet in the classic Gower's drugstore scene. And you know, it's not just about the festival. It's about creating a permanent connection between Seneca Falls and It's a Wonderful Life. Voted the most inspiring film of all time. This town is now part of the permanent history of It's a Wonderful Life. And the more people we bring in from the film, Frank Capra's granddaughter Monica's also coming, other people, the more people that come here, the more there is that connection. And that connection is about celebrating the value of each person. That's the message of the film. That's the message of this town with women's rights and human rights. So, because we just learned that Carol could come in a few weeks ago, we are coming to you, the Seneca Falls It's a Wonderful Life Museum, to request $5,000 to help in supporting the participation of these actors. This is a separate request from the request you have from the It's a Wonderful Life Committee that's in the budget. And I'm sorry for the lateness of this, but this is truly a historic opportunity to have these folks together. And also, it is the 15th anniversary of Carolyn Grimes first coming to Seneca Falls. And I hope we can all come together to figure out a way to thank her. Without her, we'd be in a very different place with this film. And so thanks.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, and we're just starting our budget process, and we'll discuss that during our budget hearings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 3 on the agenda, approval of minutes from our regular meeting on September 5th, 2017. I make the motion to approve them. I need a second. Second. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now we have reports. I make a motion to approve the report from the dog control officer. I need a second.
I'll second it for September and August. Let me see the 2 there.
There's a motion on the floor and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, gentlemen, we did get re-inspected by Agate Markets again last month. The only problem we had was a couple of paperwork snafus, which thanks to Nikki to figuring out. They come check us about every 3 months, every 4 months. When we misplaced their contract for Seneca Falls, even though they saw it earlier in the year. But Nikki's going to give me another one, and we'll send that in. So hopefully you'll get a report from the state soon.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more discussion? We'll go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We have a report from the zoning officer. I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I make a motion to approve the report from the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I just
Yeah.
mentioned a couple of big activities going on.
Yes.
This weekend, Oktoberfest, Saturday, 10 to 10, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. along our canal promenade. Also, for the last time, for last year they're going to hold this event, Forever Young 5K. This Saturday also, 9 o'clock, Kids Territory, running through the south side streets. And also, for the first time announcing Seneca Falls Parks and Rec, Seneca Falls Business Association Halloween celebration. We're calling it Halloween Fest. Saturday, October 28th, 2 to 3 trick-or-treating downtown, 3 to 4:30 in People's Park. We're going to try to use People's Park this year for the event with the community center as a rain location. And more information on that forthcoming. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I make a motion to approve the report from the highway superintendent.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Make a motion to approve the assessor's report.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Want to give a verbal report? Do you have anything to say, David?
Very quickly, yes, just to bring the board and you folks up to date. There were certain matters that were outstanding. One of them was litigation concerning the assessment rolls. There are various people who have filed grievances over the past year, 2 years, possibly even 3 years. And we're working very hard to bring those to a conclusion. One of them has been resolved with an agreement between the parties. In effect, what this does is remove the litigation that's standing out there. I'm trying to get anything that's on the books off of the books by trying to get these issues resolved. There's a resolution later on in the calendar for this evening that authorizes me to engage in and get resolution for some of these outstanding claims. For those of you who are maybe familiar with it, somebody may file an Article 78 proceeding, or they may file a challenge to their assessment. And one by one, we're trying to quickly get through that, because for many people, being required to pay something that they don't feel is appropriate is a burden. And typically, these are not always personal issues. Sometimes these are, in most cases, they are business ventures where the business has property and they feel the assessment is wrong. Some of these can be out there for 1, 2, or 3 years. So what I'm trying to do is very quickly, one by one, work on each one of them, get them resolved, get them off of our calendar. There will be no outside litigation cost for the town, and at the same time, the parties can move forward and dollars and cents can be adjusted appropriately. That's one of the items that seem to have been hanging for a while. I'm trying to move on that basically as quickly as possible. Within the past week, I've received files from former counsel, from Pat. He has provided me with active files that he had in his office that are currently being worked on. We still have to pick up some of the old files. They're voluminous because he was here for a while, but he did drop off the active files, and he has been cooperative with any of the issues involved. So overall, trying to take the legal issues surrounding the town and move forward as quickly as possible in fairness with all the parties, including the residents, the board, the litigants themselves. So it's one of the issues we're trying to move forward with as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. I have a report here from the town justices. I make a motion to approve the town justices report.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I have a report here from the Water and Sewer Department. I make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
Second, is there any discussion?
I'd like to say that I've had quite a few people over on Chapel Street very happy with working during that time in that new line. 3 or 4 people approached me about it.
guys for doing that. I guess someone was during that hot weather, and a few of the residents offered them ice water, which I thought was nice. So I learned that all.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Seneca Falls September 2017 monthly report from the police.
I'll second.
Discussion. Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the report from Barton and Judas.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Just keep trying to get us more grants. than we can use.
Yes.
Is there anything to report on the West Third Street sewer line from down 414?
Currently in negotiations with the property owners. That's all.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Any other committee reports? Like to approve all the communications received. Need a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Under old business, sale, a condominium and surplus real properties. David, the police station and the old town hall, 10 4th Street, that's still moving along.
It is. The documentation has been put together for the closings on each of those buildings. Buyers have been contacted. We're trying to just bring them through to fruition and get closings done. In one case, there's a request to somewhat delay the purchase, but I believe we may have a resolution on that. We're waiting for the person to get back to us. But all the closing documents that need to be done to actually have a closing are prepared, ready to go, sitting on my desk. We just basically need to set a closing date, receive funds, and go forward.
Any information on write-off of uncollectible receivables? Okay. How about the Route 414 sewer line transfer from IDA to town?
That is hanging fire, so to speak. We're in the process of working on some of the issues with regard to that. Most of these items were all on board in process prior to my coming on board. What I'm trying to do one by one is getting brought up to speed on where it's at and what we can do. In the succeeding months, we should see these items that are hanging out there reduced to hopefully we don't have any old business items.
And B, water renewal of water point network plan.
We're gonna scratch that for now. I'm not convinced that that's accurate enough technology right now.
Okay.
So we're gonna discuss it in the Water and Sewer Committee, and we might go with it, but we might go with something different.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the one that does all the
Map.
shut-offs, maps, everything, the water.
But I believe we need something a little more accurate than a couple of feet.
Under new business, approval of special event.
Yeah, not this month.
Okay. I'm going to ask that B be tabled, reappoint Board of Assessment Review member Gary Yancey. Do I have a second on tabling?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion that the assessor and the tax service aide attend training on Thursday, November 16th, 2017 in Batavia. The class is free and the only cost will be lunch, tolls, and mileage. The total cost of all training, and there's also a class offered on October 25th, but we are on a waiting list. I would like to take a class on deeds on November 17th in Batavia, see attached flyer. The registration cost is $110, which includes lunch and breakfast. The total cost of all the training we will be attending will not exceed $500. So I make a motion to approve those trainings for the assessor.
It's in the budget.
Yep.
The budgeted item.
Discussion.
I would recommend that that be done. This is a critical area, and it's very helpful to be up to date, especially with the handouts that are provided at these training sessions.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Our next request to declare October 7th, 2017, Coach George Davis Day. George Davis was the Minders Academy football coach from 1950 to 1970, and he was inducted into Section 5 Hall of Fame in 2000 and inducted into a Minders Academy Hall of Fame in 2010. I'd like to make a motion to declare October 7th, 2017, Coach George Davis Day. There will be a presentation of plaques on Brock Field on Saturday.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I like his record. He was in school with 130 wins, 30 losses, 8 ties. Very good.
And that celebration will take place on Brock Field on Saturday, October 7th again, on Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. And all are welcome to attend. So I made the motion, it was properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. November meeting date. Open up your calendars, guys. Eighth, okay.
Wednesday, 8th.
Wednesday the 8th. Is there court that day? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to have our next meeting held on Wednesday, November 8th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Discussion. That date was changed because November 7th is election day. Okay, motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. This will serve, since I see the two press people there, this will serve as notice to them. Okay. We'll have to call the reveille also. Okay. The 2018 tentative budget, like to schedule budget workshops I'd like to do 2 to 3 budget workshops at one budget on each day. So we need the assessor and the police. I'd like to schedule that on one day. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we schedule the assessor and the police budget workshop on Wednesday, October 11th. That's a week from today. Would that give you enough time, Chief?
Yeah, I'm ready now.
Is that good for everyone?
What time?
How about 5 p.m.?
Supervisor, was our most gonna go at that time, or is it gonna be?
I'll have you go at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And then once we discuss you, we'll discuss the assessor after. So you'll be on first. Okay. How about the highway and water and sewer on the same day? I'd like to schedule that for Monday, October 16th at 5 p.m.
They might have court.
They might have court.
On the-
Okay.
I'm not sure.
How about Tuesday, the 17th at 5 o'clock? Okay, who wants to go first? Okay, highway will go first, and then water and sewer. Okay, the zoning officer and Parks and Recreation. How about Thursday? No, that might be a court date. Wednesday, Nikki, is that a court date?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. Usually I'm not supposed to.
Okay, Wednesday, October 18th would be the zoning officer and Parks and Recreation at 5 p.m. Who wants to go first?
You go for, I've got soccer the afternoon right at Dean by over 6 o'clock, so.
Okay,
I'd like Dean go first, and I'll hear it as soon as I can.
okay, so zoning will go at 5, and I'll put you on for 6.
Yeah, I'll be here no later than that.
Okay, we'll have to, since there's no one from the courts here.
Mr. Supervisor, I'm here in the back of the room, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. So,
12? Did you say?
the 12th?
Thursday, 12, in the evening sometime?
Yeah, okay, how about,
How late do you want to go? Because the other judge is traveling ways to get home. He's usually home.
what time would you like to start? That's up to you. I'll do,
You can start at 5:30 and all that.
7 too late?
7's fine.
All right, 12 at 7.
So that's the
Thank you.
12th? October 12th at 7?
Yeah. Nikki, when would you like to discuss?
Doesn't matter to me, anytime.
How about Monday, the 23rd at 5 p.m.?
I'll talk court on Monday.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
How about Wednesday, the 25th at 5 p.m.?
Let's see. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Did I miss anyone? Oh, HBC, okay, that can't, okay.
When?
No, that is, it's not usually on Tuesday?
No, what's this?
HPC.
HPC is on Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Oh, okay. Well, the fourth Tuesday, it would be the 24th. Okay,
That's HPC.
yeah. So 5 PM
What?
on the 25th
For what?
for the budget workshop
What?
for
For
clerk.
me?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, got it.
Hey, did I miss anyone?
The general budget, when you do that.
We have to have a set a public hearing date for the general budget.
I mean, no, what I'm talking about is like go through the other items. The supervisor and the town board and all the other items, Bridgeport Sewer District and all that. So we have to move this to.
Why don't we do that on, we'll talk, the general budget, we'll talk about on the 25th after the, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's after, yes.
Bridgeport, can be the 17th, because I have to do that.
Okay, Bridgeport could be the 17th, okay. Okay. We have to set a public hearing date. So the public hearing date would be set for 5 o'clock on November 8th.
Is that the date of the meeting, Wednesday?
Yeah. That's Wednesday, the 8th, November 8th, at 5 PM. And the budget has to be approved by the 20th. So we'll set up a special meeting on that date,
If we get,
if we have.
you can adopt it if you want.
Okay. The clerk has informed me that we can adopt it on the 8th, or we will set a special date to adopt, for adoption. But it has to be adopted by the 20th. Okay, everyone's set with those dates? Good. No parking signs on Chapel Street. Chief?
I can speak on that. So, right at the intersection on Chapel Street at State, the church has requested that they have parking along that area. That's been on the local books as no parking for quite some time. It hasn't been signed properly, so we've been unable to enforce that. Myself, Jim Peterson, and Dean Zettelmeyer went and we looked, and there's so many spots that we can designate through there that are safe to designate. We just need to change the local law to reflect that. We had sent the report to the board for consideration a few months back, and it's something that we have to get going and work on to change that local law to reflect those what we consider to be legal parking locations that don't cause a traffic issue.
So it is a local law as opposed to just a code change?
Well, it's in the town code.
If it's in the town code.
Right.
So why did you, are you ready to discuss that at a public hearing?
Yeah, any three of us can discuss it. I have to pull my notes back out of the
let's set another public hearing for our next meeting on that.
Can we do that without a resolution? Reducing the local law?
I'll seek advice from the attorney.
There should be a resolution on it setting it, but do you anticipate a special meeting throughout, sometime throughout the month?
At the budget workshops.
Just as long as you have 10 days notice before the next meeting, so any time before, there's 10 days before the next regularly scheduled monthly meeting on November 8th. So if you go back to the 28th or whatever, 29th of October, anytime up until then, if you adopt that, you can still have notice in the paper.
Okay, so we can do one of our public. So we'll have to come up with a resolution. Okay. Okay. Reimbursement for sewer backup. Do you have any information? You guys have it.
You have it right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. There was a backup at a personal residence, and we discussed it with the people, and it looked like it was the town's issue. So the request has been made for reimbursement for them at a cost of $397.26. I make a motion to approve that.
Second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to make a motion to approve Local Law 3 of 2017, a local law to supersede New York State Town Law, Section 23, Paragraph 1, providing for eligibility of town officers, being enacted by the Seneca Falls Town Board as follows. Section 1. This local law is enacted pursuant to the authority of Section 10, Paragraph 1, Section II, D3, of the Municipal Home Law, which authorizes the town board to adopt a local law which may amend or supersede any provision of the town law in relation to property affairs or government of the town, or in relation to any of the enumerated subject matters in such Section 10, absent a state legislative restriction on such amendment or suppression. Section 2. Pursuant to the exception created by Section 23, Paragraph 1A of the New York State law pertaining to eligibility of town officers, the town determines there are no eligible resident attorneys who are without conflict and otherwise eligible for town attorney, and the town thereby suspends any such residency restriction to an appointed town attorney. Section 3. This local law shall take effect today, October 3rd, 2017. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Discussion. Seeing no discussion, we go to a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. (2018) health insurance offering to town employees in retirement. everyone read that memo?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
They make a motion to approve Bev Waffles' memo from September 15, 2017 on health insurance offering to town employees and retirements. This is in a public record. Anyone who wants to request it can have a copy of this. So I make a motion to approve this.
Dave made a motion.
Did someone second it?
I'll second.
Second. Is there any discussion?
I think it's great for the retirees. I've had a lot of them call me up and they're happy that we're gonna give them that option. It's gonna cost them a little bit more. It's a better plan for them.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I make a motion to purchase a sludge pump from Kester Associates for $11,840.52. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. Joe?
This was an emergency purchase. This pump went down, and the other one hasn't been rebuilt yet. So we need to get this right away. So it's ordered, it's not here yet. And next year, we're going to try and rebuild the one that is damaged.
Okay, so you'll have an automatic backup for the one that's
Next
next
year, after we rebuild the other pump, yes.
What's the warranty on the new one?
I do not. I'll get you the answer tomorrow.
Okay. Is there? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The Water Sewer Department is requesting the town board approve creating capital equipment reserve. I would like to request beginning the reserve with the proceeds of the sale of a vacuum trailer of $6,890. I make a motion.
I'll second.
Second. Joe, you want to?
Just under Bev's advisement and Chief Peenstra's, just to create that reserve instead of trying to figure out where to put things when we sell stuff on Auctions International or any other sites like that.
Okay. Very good, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Resolution number for 2017, for October 3rd, 2017. A resolution supporting the Seneca Falls Development Corporation, SFDC, in its request to lead the planning and execution of a Seneca Falls 2020 celebration marking the 100th anniversary of the Women's Suffrage Amendment to the Constitution. I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Just leave it here.
Yes.
Vince's Park pool repairs.
And we discussed in committee, you were thinking that it would be better suited for budget workshop.
Budget, yes, okay.
So both N and O.
Okay, both of them, both
Yes.
N and O.
So they could probably be removed from at least the general
They go on
meeting.
the agenda, yeah.
Highway modified budget, CHIPS funds.
That's it. Yeah.
You want to explain this a little? Can you explain this?
Yeah, Jim would like to modify the budget for the street plan. The state gave us, the paved New York gave us $56,967.21. And the state gave us for extreme winter recovery, $47,931.20, a total of $104,898.41. So you'd like to modify the street plan for $104,898.41. And it goes in line item DA 5110.408.
Okay, I'd like to make that as a motion. Modified. Okay. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
We have that, I understand that is in the budget, and then we get reimbursed. We pay for everything, then the state reimburses.
Yes. There's an estimate here to update the town code. And that estimate is between $3,100 and $3,790, which includes shipping and handling.
This is to add all the local laws to our town code, which have not been done since, I think, 15.
Okay.
It'll bring us right up to date to all the laws we have passed in that time period.
Okay, so I make a motion to update the town code at a cost not to exceed $3,790.
Second.
Discussion.
I think we should get the 17 cents. Since now they can check the 17 cents printed.
Okay.
Is that enough? Maybe 17 by hand, by the time you hand them out to the board and everybody?
No, I don't think we need 17 cents. I'm going to lower that because now it's on the website too.
Okay.
So we're going to lower that.
I mean, it's just nice.
Maybe a dozen is not all.
It's nice when they go to look at it, somebody calls me up then. Flip it up and look, okay?
Right.
We will get
Just
some
lower.
copies then, all right?
Yeah.
How many do you think you're gonna get?
12, maybe, a dozen. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
It's on to somebody selling it for the next one.
Okay. We have to set a public hearing for a proposed local law to override the tax cap established in General Municipal Law 3C. So, how many days out do we have to have this public?
This, we can do this at the next meeting. The only thing is I didn't put the date because I wasn't sure if the date for the next meeting had to be set tonight. So we can do this, if we're doing the other one at 5, we can do this one at 6.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think I have
Yeah.
6 p.m.
On November
Date,
8th. that-
yeah, you can spell that.
Okay. I make a motion to have a public hearing on a resolution introducing proposed local law and providing for public hearing to override the tax levy limit for 6 o'clock p.m. on November 8th, 2017.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Do we have a price for this?
Yes, it's for.
$75.
Right here. No, here. I'm sorry. Right here, $75 plus mileage. Each.
How many people are going to attend?
We don't know, we offer to pay the zoning and sometimes it's so it would be $75 each.
I make a motion for planning and zoning board members to attend workshops at a cost of $75 per person if they register up to November 7th. After that, it'll be $80. So I'd like them all to register before November 7th. So,
I'm sorry, you made the motion?
yeah, I make the motion
I'll second it.
to allow them to attend. Motion. And this is a workshop that they need to attend to go to, stay on those boards, and they attend this each and every year. Am I correct? Dan, Matt, any other board?
Actually, this is the second one this year.
Yes.
Some of us already.
There's one in
did the
spring
first
and some in fall.
Okay,
Yeah, and you only need to go to one.
one.
Right.
Okay, so,
So I've been, and I don't plan to go to this one particularly because it's probably going to be during bad weather.
okay.
I don't know about Dan, you got one taker, and you?
Okay, and we'll figure that one out at this point. So the motion was made, it was seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. At the August meeting of the town board, approved the leave share program and necessary changes to the employee handbook to allow the program to move forward. I've already heard from several employees how appreciative they are for the action of the town board in approving the leave share program. And this memo was written by our principal accountant clerk, Bev Waffle. You don't know her, she's sitting in the back hiding it. So raise your hand, Bev. The approved change to the portion of the handbook for sick leave was as follows. Family sick leave. An employee might use up to 5 days of sick leave credits annually for family illness or injury if the employee must provide direct care to an immediate family member unless authorized by the town board in the instance of a medical emergency requiring the employee's extended absence from duty as defined below. Such leave will be subtracted from the employee's accumulated sick leave credits. For purpose of family sick leave, immediate family member will mean the employee's parent, spouse, or child, including stepchild and foster child. Upon further discussion, I would like to ask the town board to refine this portion of the section 804 of the employee's handbook to read, family sick leave. An employee may use up to 15 days of sick leave credits annually for family illness or injury if the employee must provide direct care to an immediate family member or to bond with a new child. Such leave will be subtracted from the employee's accumulated sick leave credits for purpose of family sick leave. Immediate family members will mean the employee's parent, spouse, or child, including stepchild and foster child. I make a motion to approve that change. Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Bev. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the town attorney to settle assessment claims.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We have no water and sewer credits. I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I didn't hear of a need for an executive session. Is there? Seeing none. Special order of the day. Oh, yes.
Can I ask a question, Ray?
Yeah.
In light of Judge Bender's decision recently, what's the status of local law 2 of 2016? And you plan on appealing that decision at this point, you know, or?
I don't remember Judge Bender making a decision on that.
On the secret practice, local law 3,
I don't remember Judge Bender making it.
for Judge Coker.
Okay, I was confused. You want to speak to that?
The judge in his decision refers to local, the previous, let me do it this way so they don't get mixed up with the numbers. The most recent local law was set aside, which in effect would put the previous local law back in play. That has not been appealed to date. I don't believe we have an order from Judge Coker as yet. There's been a decision, but there has not been a directed order as to what they're doing on this, so we're awaiting that. You can't appeal something unless you have an order. So Dave, we're not, to my knowledge, I think as of last Friday and I think again Monday, there was not any order that had been promulgated by Judge Coker's office. Each side has sent proposed orders to him. He will have to issue his order.
One more.
Sure.
Is there any discussion about going through the secret process again to address the concerns raised by that?
It wouldn't, assuming that that's what, if they wanted to comply and do a positive declaration, it wouldn't involve going through the full secret process. Again, it would simply be an update by creating a positive declaration and then at that point having people comment. There would be a comment period where we take comments in and then it would come back to the board. It's not a very involved process. It's just, if you want an example of it, I think when Del Lago had an issue, it went out for further consideration. They opened that consideration, they considered it and brought it back to the judge for approval. That's all it's about.
Any more questions?
That's yet to be determined if you're going to go that route.
Yeah, it would, until you see the order, if the judge, I'll be facetious here, if the judge directed that all the board members resign, okay, or something, something, I'm using a preposterous example. Obviously, there would be the issue of either appealing it or complying with it. We don't know what the judge is going to do until he does it. At that point, there'll be a decision to either appeal or go forward with the new portion of it, or one or the other. We just don't know what he's doing yet. So, and be happy to keep you informed, as well as any press if you wish to call. Be happy. The moment we hear, you'll probably know the order before we do, to be honest with you. I mean, the way that they disseminate it, you'll probably be calling us asking for a comment with the paper in your hand because they mail them out to us.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. We're adjourned. All right, let's take a vote on that. All in favor? Aye.